Neil Kinnock has just been talking to us about what the government might do, and he's suggested that the government, it's in a jam, it might need to think about wealth taxes. What do you reckon?
I think it would be the worst thing to do. We've already had far too many taxes on wealth creation. You look at national insurance, £25 billion burden carried by business, and that's a substantial part of the reason why the economy has not been growing in the way that it should. We've also seen around 10 to 15,000 high net worth individuals leave our country as a result of this government's policies. Now, some people, the socialists, might say, oh, well, who cares about that? Well, the problem is that the amount of tax that those people have been paying requires about 1/3 of people on average earnings to cover that lost tax that's just gone straight out of the door. So the last thing we want to be doing now is piling further taxes on the wealth creators. We need to be, if anything, getting those taxes down and empowering them to go out and do what they do best, which is creating jobs and creating wealth and prosperity for our country.
All right. Is it right that you are going to propose that foreign nationals should be excluded from access to sickness benefits?
So we've tabled an amendment to the welfare bill that's going through Parliament at the moment, saying that we think the government should come through with a discussion paper on that issue and addressing this question as to whether foreign nationals should be receiving those kind of benefits. We know that, for example, over the last 3 years, the number of foreign nationals claiming these benefits has doubled, and we know that if you take those households with at least one foreign national within the household, the welfare bill is about £1 billion per month, so the numbers are very high. We would, of course, be excluding not just those that are British citizens, but those that have rights under international treaties to settle in the United Kingdom.
But just to be clear about that, I mean, why pick on them? I mean, foreign nationals pay taxes too, and why would they be particularly people that you'd want to say should be excluded from receiving benefits?
Well, under the existing arrangements,
Trevor, I think something like a fifth or a third of people who work in the NHS would be foreign nationals. What's so special about them that means that they get punished?
So there are already particular arrangements around foreign nationals and their access to benefits. But look, I think at the heart of this, and we are calling for a discussion document, so there are lots of questions that we need to consider, including the one that you've just posed. But I think the point is that British citizenship should mean something. And I think most people would agree with the idea that, if you are to benefit from our welfare state and health benefits and all sorts of other things, it's not unreasonable to expect that to be for those who have citizenship in our country. And of course, many foreign nationals can qualify for that, apply for it and achieve it in due course. But what we're calling for is a discussion document from the government to look at these issues.
So somebody who happens to have been born in London or Liverpool or Carlisle, but has never worked a day in their life, has access to sickness benefits. But somebody who may have come here and after 3 years has worked really hard, done 2 jobs and so on, after 2 or 3 years gets access to sickness benefits, they get taken out, do they?
So I think there is a principle here, Trevor, which is that I think citizenship should mean something, and I don't think it's unreasonable to have particular arrangements for those who are British citizens and citizens of our country. At the same time, as I say, the amendment is calling for the government to come forward with a discussion document, and there are many questions along the lines of those that you posed, indeed many others, that we'll need to consider. But I think the basic principle, though, is a strong and important one that I think most people would feel was reasonable.
Are you sure this is not just being a bit adjacent, reform adjacent, to make the people who are departing from you to reform feel that you're on their side, but you're never actually going to do it?
No, this is about getting a grip on the welfare bill. Now, when we were in power, we brought in reforms to the work capability assessment that the OBR themselves scored as saving £5 billion. and would have seen 450,000 fewer people on those long-term sickness and disability benefits, according to the OBR, and those people then having the opportunity with support to go into the world of work. And that's what my party is about. We believe in work, and we believe that we should be there having a welfare system that encourages and incentivises work at every turn, and that's the approach that we have to welfare.
Your colleague Jeremy Hunt said to Sophie Ridge this week, we could do a lot worse than Rachel Reeves. After all the speculation about the Chancellor this week, are you glad to see that she's kept her job?
Well, I think if she's not to keep her job, then the Prime Minister needs to go as well, because he has been responsible for much of the chaos that we've seen in the last few weeks.
That isn't actually the question I asked.
Complete control. Well, sorry, you're asking me whether she should keep her job. Well, it's not for me to opine on who keeps it. Frankly, Trevor, I'd like to see all the Labour front bench step down, because I think we've had a year of utter underperformance. Whether you look at illegal boats, migrants coming across the Channel, that's now at record levels. Far from smashing the gangs, they're smashing all the records as to the numbers coming into our country. If you look at the chaotic U-turns that we've just had in the last few weeks.
I guess I'm putting it to you as a reasonable, non-tribal sort of bloke, that actually you think she's the best of a bad lot, don't you?
Well, look, I'm not going to start sort of saying whether she should come or go. I just think the whole government and the Chancellor is part of that. The Prime Minister is certainly very much part of it. Has been leading a pretty rudderless administration that has not got to grips with some of the serious challenges that we have as a country, has not delivered on the kind of growth that they were saying that they would do in the economy, has borrowed huge amounts of money, has stoked up inflation, kept interest rates higher for longer, is mounding up that national debt, and so on and so forth. And this is just a very, very poor track record. And I think you can point to several members of the front bench who really are not making the grade.
Can I ask you a question, which I suppose I would like you to answer as a parliamentarian rather than spokesperson for your party. Was it right for Kemi Badenoch to draw attention to the Chancellor's distress in the House of Commons in the way that she did? It didn't particularly add to the political point she was making. And I wonder if this is a sort of, you know, going into the tackle studs up approach, which is making life difficult for Kemi Badenoch.
Well, no, I don't think there was anything personal in that moment at all. It was a typically sort of high-octane joust.
She pointed at the Chancellor and said, look, she's miserable.
Well, no, well, look, I think we are all agreed, and I actually messaged Rachel shortly after that PMQs to say that I felt for her and I hope that she was okay, because I think at a personal level that's what most people, of course, would rightly feel. But at the same time,
has your leader apologised?
Hold on, Trevor. I've got to finish your question. I've got to finish your question, which is that you know, her job, her duty at that point is to be up at the dispatch box, holding the Prime Minister to account. And bear in mind, this is a week in which they've had to step back from £5 billion worth of welfare reforms. Now, that's an unfunded commitment, along with the U-turn that they had on winter fuel payments. They're up to about £6 billion of unfunded commitments. They said they would never do that. Yet another broken promise. And we're all going to pay for it by way of higher taxes in the autumn. And they're already taxing us enough, and it's damaging the economy. And I think under those circumstances, it's not surprising that she's up there vociferously holding Keir Starmer to account.
Do you happen to know if she's reached out to the Chancellor at a personal level and maybe apologised, maybe said, I feel for you?
No, I don't. All I know is what I've done, which, as I say, I did message Rachel shortly after PMQs just to say, firstly, that I felt for her, and secondly, to say that I hope that she was okay.